everybody. So we're so excited. We are here to talk about Disney. Every month, my friend Stanford and I get together and talk about a Disney canon film, and we're just doing it in random order. And we're going to talk about Big Hero 6 this month. And Stanford, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for the invitation, Rachel. So happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about a more recent one we've done. Up until this, the most recent one we had done is Pocahontas, but it's kind of fun. We've skipped all over the place. We did Lady and the Tramp and
Yes.
the book and kind of going on Cinderella.
It's been a fun way to watch these Disney films, isn't it? Because last time I did this, I watched them in chronological order. So this has really been fun.
I think this is much better because the chronological order, there's some rough patches that
yeah. This helps you get through the rough patches.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will, right? It will.
Yeah. 54th film in the Disney animated canon, and it was released in 2014. And what was your thoughts about this film kind of going into it, but then also your thoughts on your initial thoughts after seeing it?
I loved this film the first time I saw it, and I love this film watching it again. You know, I've seen it many times. I just think this film is so entertaining, so emotionally satisfying, so beautifully animated, and just a great mix of action and mystery and you know, real authentic emotion. I just I love this film. I really love this film.
Yeah, this film is really special to me because in the summer of 2014, I slipped and tore my MCL in my knee.
Oh, Rachel. Ouch.
I know, and which made me bedridden for basically 3 months. And that's
stars.
when I first decided, because I was just like, what am I going to do with myself? You know, like luckily, thankfully, I could work from home, so I was able to work. So that was a blessing. But, you know, I was just like, I'm going to go crazy, just like sitting. And so I thought to myself, I've always wanted to watch the Disney canon, everything, like movies that I'd heard about, but I had never actually seen, like the package films. Something like Black Cauldron I'd heard about, but I'd never actually seen. And I'd always wanted to do it, but you know, where's the time? But all of a sudden I had tons of time. And so I made it my goal, because this was in, it was in the end of July that it happened. I probably started the blog sometime in August. I can't remember.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So I started my blog, 54 Disney Reviews. That's why it's called 54 Disney Reviews. And I made it my goal that I was going to finish the whole canon, both watching and blogging about it, by the release of Big Hero 6 in, I think it was in November.
Yeah, anyway. It was November.
Yeah. And it was just such a positive experience for me that I really liked talking about film, and I really talking about Disney, and I just decided to keep on with it and keep going. And I had done a little bit of reviews on my just personal blog, but this was what got me started. Big Hero 6 in a lot of ways was sort of the catalyst for getting me started as far as a movie blogger and then I did my I really stepped up my channel after that, and you know, kind of so Big Hero 6 is actually really pretty important to me.
How cool is that, Rachel? Yeah. I love that story.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and I really loved it when it first came out. I hadn't actually seen that many Marvel movies, believe it or not. I had seen Iron Man and the Avengers, and I think maybe Thor. I just hadn't seen that many of them. Maybe the first Captain America. And it wasn't until I saw these, I think it might have been that summer that I also saw Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America Winter Soldier. And so anyway, I missed a lot of them. And so for me, some of the things that people complain about this movie like weren't a problem for me because I hadn't really seen them do the villain in the suit, you know, kind of a thing a million times. Like I hadn't seen some of these Marvel things, so it still, I think, felt a little more fresh. But and now that I have seen all of the Marvel movies, I'm like, okay, I kind of get why some people had complaints. But I still really love it, and I think it has some really special things that make it really unique for Disney, and I think it also has some things that are really part of embracing the spirit of Disney. So it's like new and nostalgic at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense, and I completely agree.
Yeah. So anyway, let's dive in and talk about it. So this was based on, this was the first animated canon film that Disney and Marvel, you know, did together, first and only one to this point. And it's based on a really obscure bunch of comics from Japan that they found. And you did some research at the time into the comics.
Well, I did. I mean, when I was writing for the Animation Fascination blog, I wrote a series of articles about Big Hero 6 because we were at that, we were all pretty excited about the film, and it was fun to learn more about the comic. But yeah, it's totally obscure, and I don't know exactly what they did. I thought I remember reading, and again, I wish I could find the facts to this, Rachel. Maybe I have to keep looking and get back to you on it. But I believe that the director, Don Hall, you know, he co-directed the film with Chris Williams.
Uh-huh.
But I think Don Hall was really like searching through the Marvel catalog, trying to find something that could possibly work. And he came across this thing called Big Hero 6, which is kind of a cool title. But really the main thing they're touted as Japan's top heroes. They're based out of Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of the people there's Hero, of course, but he had a different name in the comics. And there's Baymax, but Baymax is a bodyguard robot that can turn into this giant green lizard or this mecha robot in the comics, instead of being the healthcare companion, you know, that he is. I like what Disney did, but there's Honey Lemon, there's Go-Go, there's Wasabi, you know, and then there's Fred. Fred actually can become more like a Godzilla creature too. I can't remember specifically what turns him into, but anyway, so they appeared in a series with the hero Sunfire. Again, I've never heard of Sunfire,
mm-hmm.
but he was an original member of the Big Hero 6. And then that was in 1998 was their first appearance. And then in 2008, there was a 5-issue miniseries, which actually still, you can find that miniseries at Marvel.com in their online store. But yeah, there's this online digital comic that they have of it. But again, and that same thing, they've got Wasabi, Go-Go, Honey Lemon, you know, Baymax and Hero.
Mm-hmm.
And they just are on this. Yeah, go ahead.
Are they basically the same kind of character designs? Like, is Wasabi black? Are they similar, or did they change that up?
No, they changed quite a bit because if I'm not mistaken, Wasabi is Japanese, and he's like a sushi chef that
okay.
And he wears like this kind of Hawaiian shirt thing that is, in a way, it's like a samurai meets Hawaiian shirt ensemble is what I wrote in my article. I'm going to have to look at the picture. And Fred, I think Fred might have been Caucasian, but he was just some guy, you know. I don't think he wasn't kind of necessarily the way they portrayed him. Honey Lemon was portrayed more as like the sexy troublemaker.
Okay.
And they pulled that out of the film. I thought that Go-Go seemed kind of similar in style to the comics, you know, what Disney used, because she was more like I think she's like an ex-con. So kind of someone that's maybe a little rougher around the edges, but this got some skills. Has this power suit.
Okay.
Honey Lemon in the comics has this purse, same thing like she has in the film, but the purse as I recall, like anything can come out of this purse. You know, she can pull
Okay.
out. It's like any weapon or whatever that she needs can pull out. So Disney went for more of a scientific thing that follows more of a logic. With
Well, and
actually
they
with
were all
all of them,
academics in the
yeah,
movie.
yeah, they're in school, and
Mhm.
so that's a little different. But
Yeah.
it's still a fun. I thought it was fun that they tried to find at least or get some ideas from the comics, and
Yeah.
I believe that the filmmakers had the blessing from Joe Quesada, who's the chief creative officer at Marvel, and some of the other folks at Marvel. But technically, it's really not branded as a Marvel film, right?
Doesn't
They
it have something at the beginning? It's not
no,
the Marvel Studios, but
no,
oh, it doesn't? Okay.
it doesn't.
Forgot.
At the very end, they mention that there's some Marvel stuff, and then of course there's the Stan Lee,
Yeah.
which is this kind of the signature. I like how they put that in. I thought that was
Mhm.
funny.
Yeah, that was fun. We'll talk
Kind
about
of
that.
yeah, we'll talk about that. I mean,
And I did talk to my friend Trevor at How to Love Comics, and we cover all of the superhero new releases that are PG-13-ish. We didn't cover Deadpool 2 or Logan, but the rest of them we do, and I really have a great time with him. And he told me that they are coming out this summer with a whole new set of comics for from IDW for Disney for Big Hero 6 with
fine.
June. Actually, it just came out, I guess, June 9th.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so that sounds fun.
Yeah, I wanted to check that out, see what those look like.
Yeah, so it says it has catching attention with her online comics and zines. Burgeoning writer Hannah Blumerick will lead the new comic series, writing the debut issue. And it's the same people behind the Star Wars Forces of Destiny cartoons. I don't know
Oh
if you've
yeah.
seen those. So it should be pretty fun. And so, yeah, it's kind of nice. This was something different. And so a lot of those elements that where I was saying, it both feels different and fresh, but it also feels nostalgic and right at home in Disney. So a lot of these, they've never done a superhero movie before. The closest they'd ever really gotten before was probably Hercules. It was sort of they were sort of, there's some elements of that movie that were trying to riff off comic books and heroes and kind of things. The other thing that I think makes this movie different than most other Disney animated films is that you have an urban environment, which isn't very common for Disney. The only ones I can really think of, you have Oliver and Company that has an urban environment landscape. You have a little bit in the Aristocats in Paris. You have a little bit of London in 101 Dalmatians. And I don't know, there's a few others sprinkled in there. But it's kind of fun to see. And I really liked San Francisco a lot. I thought it was so inventive.
Oh, I
so
love
creative.
San Francisco. I felt it was almost like a character in the film.
Yeah.
I think they had so much fun. They must have so much fun creating that hybrid between San Francisco and Tokyo, and it's so wonderful to look at. It's just, I never tire of it, and that was another thing I just was reminded of rewatching it. What a delight it was to see how they've created this hybrid city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really, really creative, and I really enjoyed the artistry and the cityscapes and other things that they did.
Oh, me too. Love it.
So we did get some comments on Twitter from my different friends about their thoughts about the movie. So I thought I'd show them real quick. So we have from the Love Pirate, we have, he says, creative and fun, even if it's not taking any huge risks. Love the multicultural cast and the style of the characters and the world. Lots of big laughs, and Fred's song is my favorite thing ever. And then from Richard Southworth, we have, it's a very good film, excellent visuals, and very funny. I liked the heroes team's progression and the hero Baymax friendship. Only flaws are that the third act feels a bit rushed, and it's not hard to figure out who the villain is. There you go. Then we have from Animated Antic, we have Big Hero 6 is one of my favorite animated movies that came out in 2014. The characters in the movie are easily the strongest aspect due to their chemistry and emotional punch that they have. I also really love the friendship between Baymax and Hero. My friend Reese Reviews, he says, this is actually my favorite film in the canon. I absolutely love everything about it. The main characters are all so diverse and awesome with unique powers. The voice work and animation is perfect, and the villain is underrated in my opinion. Baymax is one of Disney's best characters. So there you go.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, so some different opinions there. This did get a pretty high score from Rotten Tomatoes. It had an 89%, and it had an audience score of 91%. So it's pretty well liked, I think. I think the only thing that gave it some pushback, I guess, is a lot of people liked How to Train Your Dragon 2 better than this, and Big Hero 6 won the Oscar that year. Here's my opinion. I think Lego Movie should have won if you're talking about mainstream, but it wasn't even nominated. So, and out of the 5 nominees that they had, I would have given it to Song of the Sea. I think that's the best movie of those 5 movies. And then Tale of Princess Kaguya is probably the next best. But I think that Big Hero 6 is better than How to Train Your Dragon 2. I do. I don't know. What do you think?
So I definitely like Big Hero 6 better than How to Train Your Dragon 2. Again, just mostly because I'm not a huge DreamWorks fan generally.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying regarding Lego Movie. I mean, what a big year for animation it was,
Yeah,
and Song of the Sea, Tale of Princess Kaguya. I mean, holy smokes! How do you pick? I was surprised that Big Hero 6 won, but I was thrilled because I love the movie. I think as far as mainstream animation goes, it was the best film, and I guess we can be grateful that at least it won over something not good.
Yeah. I mean, I like all 5 of the nominees that year.
Oh, they were great.
Personally, I think the Box Trolls gets way too much hate. I actually quite liked it, but I liked the Lego Movie better. But just because something has something better doesn't mean it's bad.
Right.
But anyway, I really did think that if you were going to give it to one of the mainstream ones, because in my opinion, How to Train Your Dragon 2 has a huge problem with the mother character, and that they just like let her off the hook for and I think it gets kind of convoluted, and I'd rather have something that's maybe a little bit predictable than something that to me gets a little bit convoluted with the alphas and the dragons and the so in my opinion, the right mainstream film won if you're going to pick. But there you go. That's just our opinion. But I think that's why it kind of, people were like, oh, it's overrated, whatever. Even though most people, I think, liked it. And, but we both really like it. So anyway.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's dive in and talk about it. So it starts out building up this relationship between Hiro and Tadashi. We find out that Hiro's been doing these bot fights where he's able to kind of trick people into thinking his small little robot is going to be defeated, and of course he's able to defeat them. He's a smart kid. How old is Hiro? Is he 13?
I think Hero's around 13 or 14.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. And Hero's had a kind of some hard stuff to deal with. I mean, his parents, he and Tadashi are brothers, right? And he has a really healthy relationship with Tadashi.
Mm-hmm.
But their parents died when Hiro was 3.
Right.
And so and they live with their Aunt Cass, who I love her character.
Yeah.
And so I think he gets enough love, but still I think it's set up early that he's had some hard things. Yeah. He's had some hard things.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant. But he's brilliant, right? And so
he's brilliant. That's why he's not going to regular school. And he's basically homeschooled, for lack of a better thing.
In fact,
Tadashi is trying to get him to go to college, but Hiro thinks that's super lame. And so but then he takes him to the college, and he meets all of the various characters and their various robotics and other things that they're working on in this lab. and that's what he's like, I've got to go to the school. I got to go here.
School. And I really appreciate how that set up, because again, one of the winning points of this film is I just feel like everything is authentic and genuine, and the way it's presented, and Hero's reaction to it, you just know that he means it when he says, it's like the light went on. He's like, I've got to go to the school. And I just think that's again, a terrific part of how the plot gets, how the plot gets moved forward.
I think they do a really great job of building up this relationship between Tadashi and Hiro in a short, brief period of time. And that's the part that feels so Disney, that you have, whether it's, Simba and Mufasa having to build up that relationship in just a few early scenes that will be the sort of thread for it. And I think that, when you have Simba yelling out for his father, it's kind of similar to the scene in this, where we'll talk about it more, but where he, Tadashi isn't here, Tadashi is gone. And I think that there's lots of scenes like that in the history of Disney, whether you're talking about Bambi and his mother, or they have to build up, even Geppetto and Pinocchio, or they have to build up this relationship in just a few early scenes that will be sort of this emotional thread through the whole film.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
And I think they do a great job with that here. And I really appreciate that they have two brothers. I feel like that's not as common in an animated film, or there's lots of animated films that have a male protagonist, but to have two brothers that are close and have this relationship, I think is pretty unique, actually. And I mean, I just off the top of my head, I can't really think of there's not that many animated films where they have siblings at all.
Right.
And so it really is nice to see. And I think especially after you had this interesting, at least I think it's interesting, this dive into two sisters in Frozen, that the next film would be two brothers. I kind of like that.
Two brothers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that was really cool. And
I like that too.
And so he also meets, like I said, the whole team with Gogo. I mean, I didn't write down their regular names. I forgot.
They're not revealed in the film.
Okay.
Fred gives them these nicknames, and that's how Tadashi introduces him.
Okay. I can remember.
Gogo, Honey Lemon, Wasabi, and Fred.
So he's introduced to all of them, and they're really fun. And one of the things I really like about this movie is that any child watching it will be able to say, I can be smart like them. There's somebody for it. And it's not just diversity for diversity's sake. I think because San Francisco is this imaginary kind of city, you can imagine any type of people. It's not like it has to necessarily be Japanese people. Because it's this, it's San Francisco. It's
and the voice cast was diverse for them too, because the Ryan Potter, who voiced Hiro, I think he's part Asian. I can't remember exactly his nationality. Daniel Hanney, who voices Tadashi, is Asian. Gogo, I mean, Honey Lemon, I believe, Genesis Rodriguez, I believe her name is, and so she's a Latina, and I think it's an Asian woman that is it Jamie Chung who voiced
Jamie Chung
Gogo, and then Fred is voiced by the comic T.J. Miller.
And then Wasabi, Damon Wayans.
Yeah, that's right. So again, they matched, I think, the cast to the characters to the cast in this case, which I like. I agree, I like it too. It's like kind of it's a diverse cast, but in a way, it's almost colorblind.
It is. It is. It's effortlessly diverse, which I like. That's what I like to see. I think that's really nice, and I think that any kid can walk away and be like, "I want to be smart like Wasabi. I want to be smart like Honey Lemon," kind of a thing. And I think that they because this is the initial setup, and we'll talk in another video about the TV show, but they weren't able to maybe use these characters as much as I would have liked them to, but I am glad to see in the TV show that they're definitely fleshing out the whole team a little bit more. But you can't do everything in one movie.
Right. Right. I thought considering they did a pretty good job of involving everybody, but it didn't weigh it down, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So you have these different things like the unique atmosphere, unique tone, but you have just things that feel effortlessly Disney, like the relationship between these two brothers. And of course, what would so he meets Professor Callahan, and Professor Callahan tells him that if he wants to go to the school, he can enter. There's this science fair. Yeah. And so then he gets really, really excited about that. And we also get his first introduction to Baymax here. That Tadashi is showing him Baymax. And Baymax is just the best. Like, even people I know that don't really like this movie very much are just like, oh, Baymax is the best.
Yes. Agree. Yeah, Baymax is just what a cool character, and just everything about Baymax is just brilliant.
Yeah, he's so sweet and lovely. And I mean, I just love characters that kind of take everything at face value and are just loving and kind. And that's just, I don't know, so what we need so often is just there's enough cynicism in the world. We need kindness.
Well, I totally agree with you. And what I think is so remarkable about Baymax too is the simplicity of his design, and really how he's got this emotionless face, but how can they get so much emotion out of that character? It's amazing. I mean, the kudos to Scott Adsit, the actor who did the voice performance for I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But Baymax is this brilliant character.
I have you won't be able to see in the audio, obviously, but I have on my shirt that has on both. It has both Baymax and Totoro. And I think
so rad.
And I think that is a very good comparison. There's scenes where the characters just want to lean on Baymax and just feel comforted and feel loved. And I think that's basically what you get with Totoro too. So I think there's some similarities between the two.
That's a great shirt, Rach.
And so it's really, really great. And so then there's a fire at the school, and Tadashi thinks that Callahan is in the school, or who does he think's in there?
Well, Callahan, because
Callahan,
one of the fellow students that comes out of there saying, Professor Callahan's still inside.
Yeah.
And so Tadashi says his famous line, "Somebody has to help," and he runs in to try to save him. And
he dies in the fire, and that is just devastating. And and that again is in the grand tradition of Disney films, is people have to die. But I think that this is all handled very well. I think it is very emotionally true. I think the way that they depict Hiro grieving and isolating himself, and not even wanting to eat, not even wanting to, I think that all feels very emotionally true.
Yeah, definitely. It's such an emotional scene, and I appreciate so much the deft touch of the filmmakers, because again, they could have gone any direction with it, right, or made it even more heavy-handed or more dramatic or whatever, but instead they tell it, and it's almost silent. There's no dialogue, but you know what's happened. Yeah. And they masterful use of lighting and everything with that. It's expertly done.
Yeah, I guess I forgot to say that. So he does go to the fair, the contest. I forgot to that, and he has invented, Hero has invented these
Microbots,
which are pretty cool.
which
They're
are
like these,
so cool.
yeah, they're like these Kinectics, but they work through magnetism, and you can kind of direct them, and they're really cool. And so basically, like, he gets an offer from Alistair Craig, this
Yeah,
big Bill Gates kind of
it's like
guy.
Bill Gates / Steve Jobs kind of guy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
And it's kind of a red herring in a way, because you
yeah.
just think he's the big
You think
bad
that he's the
guy.
bad guy? He runs Cray Tech Industries.
Right.
Yeah, this big
And
business. That's
so he offers to buy all the bots from Hero, and then Callahan says, no, you should keep going to school here. Well, Hero decides that he's going to stay in school, and of course that makes Craig upset. And so anyway, and then that's when the fire happened. So and it what was the motivation for starting the fire? What was he trying to do?
well, you know. So I guess we're going to reveal here about the villain. Okay, so the villain is Callahan, Professor Callahan.
Yeah, and he's trying to frame Craig.
He's trying to frame Alistair Cray for because Cray. This is where I guess just to back up just a little bit. One of the strengths of this film is that I think it has a really interesting plot.
Yeah.
Even though you can figure it out, and it's possibly predictable, but still, for me, it's interesting. I just think, I really like, because they paid attention to detail, and it unfolds. It's like almost like a mystery movie, put it, added into it. But so Callahan wants the technology because he feels like these microbots can help him rebuild that portal that where his daughter got lost, who was working for Cray.
Right. So Callahan, so Cray had this we've seen many sort of pillars in the sky in comic book movies. That's what I say, like, because I hadn't seen as many superhero movies at that point when I first saw it. I think it felt especially sort of fresh and exciting. But I have seen a lot of movies with the pillar in the sky, kind of a thing. Yeah. Even, of course, for the original Avengers, even something like Ghostbusters recently had it, things like that. But
it's a common, element, so plot element.
He said Callahan's daughter, it was almost kind of like the subatomic kind of thing with Ant-Man, kind of, right? Sort of.
Yeah, sort of. It's just like they had these two portals, and you could go in one and then come through the other, and it was like traveling through kind of time and space, right? It's like, but inside that portal, it's almost like it's this limbo, and I know we'll get into that, but it's the way that it's drawn. It's just kind of like these swirling colors, and time stands still.
All this kind of backstory, but at the time you don't, and you just kind of assume that it's Craig that has. You
assume that it's this Alistair Craig guy who's hiding behind this kabuki mask in this really elegant coat he's wearing,
because he was so interested in the bots.
Yeah.
So anyway, you have Hero really grieving, and I love the scene when the whole team Skypes into him and is like, if I could reach through this computer and give you a hug, I would.
I know. And they're so cute to him.
And it's then that he stubs his toe and he says, ouch. And that's when Baymax gets woken up.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty delightful scene, his first sort of interactions with Baymax.
I think so too. And again, just a masterful way that they put this plot together. During that scene, Hero realizes that he still has one of those microbots. It's been in the floor, it got kind of shoved under his bed, and it's being very active. It's in a petri dish, and it's just like going crazy. And so they're wondering what's happening because he thought all of them got destroyed in the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And so it causes them to try to figure out, what is going on. And
But it's just so funny because because Baymax is basically diagnosing him with puberty.
I know, it's
and
hilarious.
With mood swings, and how can and when he slips and falls, and he just gives it bang, 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 things keep falling on him.
Fun physical comedy in that scene. Yeah.
What's your pain level from 1 to 0 to 10? 0. Yeah, and you also learn there that you have to say, "I'm satisfied with my care," for him to deactivate, and that is when they find the microbot in his coat, and you find that it is being attracted to something, and he's like, "What? They're all gone. Why is it doing that?" And he thinks it's just busted, but they end up following it, him and Baymax, and they end up in this warehouse where they find that somebody's making like tons and tons of these bots, and that whole scene is delightful. So
funny.
Yeah, them getting through the window and Baymax getting smaller, and I mean, just the whole thing is just so delightful and sweet.
Yeah, and fun, and again, they're it's a mystery, right? They're trying to figure out what's going on, and there's enough suspense into it and a little bit of danger.
Yeah,
and that's where we first meet Yokai, this villain who we find out is Callahan, but he's just this masked guy in a kabuki mask. But I love his character design. I think that mask is just it's simplistic, but it's threatening. It's kind of scary, but not like nightmare scary, but still threat. Like you just feel like, oh, there's something ominous going on. And that coat that they put him in, I don't know. I'm sorry, I get a little carried away, but I just think that coat.
No, I agree with you.
I just think it's such a beautiful design where it's threatening, but it's elegant. And in a lot of ways, they remind me of Maleficent. In that, not with all the fire and stuff, but still, there was such an elegance to Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty, but also a real menace.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought they did their homework and executed expertly.
I agree. I think that they did a really good job. I felt like they did a good job creating mystery around the bots. You didn't know what they were doing.
Yes.
To me, it really worked, and
it worked for me too.
I liked the mask and the I don't know. There's definitely some tension there, and we get a very funny scene that was in all the trailers with Hero and Baymax, and he's deflating. And you got the cop who doesn't believe what they're saying.
Yeah,
so you're telling me a masked man followed you in the
yes.
Yeah. And so that's really fun, and that's when he gets the help of the whole team kind of together, and he also that Hero uses the 3D printer to make basically armor for Baymax, and it's sort of there's sort of 2 levels. There's the green level and then he ends up with the red. But do you think that they successfully I guess, for lack of a better word, weaponized Baymax? Was that believable?
Oh, I liked it. I thought it was fun because the first iteration, he basically teaches Baymax how to do karate.
Yeah.
and I mean, and he makes, he programs them. He puts it, he does it. He adds it to his little chip library that Baymax has, embedded in him. And it's fun. I just think it's funny physical comedy because it's just to see this marshmallow man, do this karate.
Yeah.
I think it's funny. And then that suit they put him in is kind of like the Baymax 1.0, right?
Yeah.
And I just think they play it a lot up for comedy too, because how he has to run in it, how his legs are kind of impeded, and it just makes me laugh. Just those little tiny steps that he has to take as he's trying to run after Hero, and and then of course he gets a very serious upgrade later on in the film, which
Yeah.
is
And you get a
more
really
appropriate.
nice scenes with them flying together. With
Oh,
them.
Arnold's fun. I mean, this
Yeah.
again, that feels so Disney, of course, too, but not in a necessarily a derivative way. I just think it's fun. It's just magical.
Yeah.
In a way.
And he's able to recruit the whole team at the school to join him. So Go-Go, she gets the like discs, right?
That she can use as weapons as well as wheels.
Yeah.
To help propel her. They're like these roller skates that, turbo roller skates or something.
Yeah. And Wasabi has he has the like blades as hands, kind of.
Yeah, he gets they're almost like they're
and it can
like they were calling it like plasma, but there's like these electronic things that come out of his hands that act as blades that he can use as weapons.
And it's kind of like Frozone almost a little bit. Like he can make
Yeah.
And then Honey Lemon has these balls that almost like bubble gum that
come out of her purse.
Yeah. That she can use.
She can there's a keyboard outside of her purse, and it's like because she's a chemist.
Uh-huh.
So she can come up with whatever little bomb she needs at the time, and I like how that I really like that too, because again, this was so fun. It's based in kind of the science and the research that the kids are doing at the school.
Yeah,
and then they apply it in a way that's going to help them with their superhero tasks.
Yeah. And Fred, what's his power? I forget.
He doesn't have one.
He doesn't have one. That's what I thought. He's just like in this mascot, basically.
He's in this fantastic, is it kaiju? I don't know what you call it, like the Japanese monster suit.
Yeah.
And I think he can jump. It allows him to jump, and then he can shoot out fire. He's like fire breathing. That's like, but he's I love that design too, because that's just right out of some awesome Japanese monster movie. His suit design.
Yeah, and it's fun. I sometimes I don't know. What did you think about Fred? He's the comic relief of
the comic relief. It's just fun. I mean, I thought. Again, Frank, I think he does what he's supposed to do. He's the comic relief. But he helps. He's incredibly wealthy.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
sort of the surprise.
That's the surprise.
They find out.
And so, in a way, I feel like Fred is kind of bankrolling it. I just feel like Fred kind of is bankrolling it because they all get their suits and stuff done there at his house. Well, and Fred's he's a big comic book fan, and he's got a big collection. That's where Hero gets the idea, because he sees like those action figures
right
on Fred's shelf.
And there's some pretty intense stuff, so I think you need the comic relief. And so I think T.J. Miller, it works for me. And
works for me too.
He's kind of the as far as the rich thing, he's kind of the Batman of the group.
Yeah, exactly. Which is funny because the butler has to come save him a time or two, right? And
yeah.
So,
all right. Well, okay. So then I think that the best scene in the whole movie is, I mentioned it briefly before, but when that Hero is becoming kind of obsessed with finding Callahan, finding and getting sort of revenge. He's just, and
they find out that it's Callahan, that's yokai, and that Callahan then is responsible for Tadashi's death.
Yeah, exactly. And he wants revenge, and he is trying to get Baymax to go and to basically like kill Callahan, and he's trying to get the armor back on, other things, and that's when Baymax says Tadashi is here, and that's and Hero says no, he's not here, and then Baymax plays the video of Tadashi talking about his love for Hero. And it's so, I mean, you just talking about it, I'm getting emotional because it is such a great moment. I think
It's
so
so
moving.
masterfully done. I love it too. That Baymax, has that TV screen that shows, or that video screen that shows up on the middle of his body, and it's all the video of Tadashi trying to create 84 iterations. They don't show them all, but however many it took to get Baymax to where to the Baymax that we know. And and it really shows Tadashi's character. It shows how much Tadashi loved Hiro, and it's such a great way of doing it. And Hiro figures that out, and that Tadashi loved him, and that it's Anyway, I'm with you. It's really emotional,
really moving. I love it. And so then we get to sort of our final part of. We also do get the whole, we kind of glossed over. There's a whole really fun chase sequence where Callahan is the masked man is chasing them all around town, and Wasabi is driving. That whole scene is really fun and very well animated.
Yeah.
So then we get to our final part of the movie where Craig is introducing his the big pillar in the sky thing. And this part does feel a little bit generic to a lot of different other superhero movies, but I don't mind it. And they end up going in. There's lots of fighting back and forth. And they end up going into the pillar, the dimension, whatever you want to call it. And they actually find Callahan's daughter, and in this like hypersleep kind of a thing. And so they're going to bring her back, but they end up get to this point where they only have one more push from Baymax that will get them through. And so he ends up, it's kind of similar to what happens with Bing Bong at the end, in Inside Out. And so Hiro has to say goodbye to Baymax and let him go. And that scene is devastating, I think.
Oh, absolutely. That's, again, played with such authentic emotion and done so well. It's so hard because Hiro, here he's lost his brother and is just starting to make peace with it, and then he has to say goodbye to Baymax, and it's just so devastating.
Yeah. And Baymax leaves him with only his hand, I guess, of the armor.
Yeah, the rock, because it's like a rocket arm, or like a rocket glove kind of thing. Right. It almost looks like a gauntlet, right? Like the Infinity Gauntlet that Baymax.
Right. Yeah. That's true. That's a good point. And but he, basically says like, trust me, but you have to say I'm satisfied with my care. And I really think that scene totally works. I do
too.
Yeah,
I do too. I love that whole sequence in the portal, because I think the animation is marvelous, because you really do feel like you're in this different place. And I don't know what kind of magic they had to work to get that to look good, but it almost looks like it's swirling paint, that's kind of in a gravity-free environment. It's really it's really beautifully done. And then then the emotional impact of it.
Yeah, agreed. And so then we get sort of the ending with Hiro. Is he gonna go back to school? He's kind of depressed again, but then he's putting away stuff, and he finds that in the hand of Baymax's armor is the chip. So he knows he can make a new Baymax, and so it's really cool.
Yeah, he does, and it's such that scene where he hugs Baymax in that beautiful window there in Hero's old office at school, or his little lab at school.
Yeah,
is really beautiful.
Agreed. But definitely, and we do get a post-credit scene with with Fred, and we meet Fred's dad.
Fred's dad
With Stanley as his dad, which is pretty funny.
It's so funny. It's just I just think that was a fun addition that they added, because I mean, even though it's not really, I mean, it is kind of a Marvel movie, but it's a Disney movie rather than a Marvel movie. Still, it was a great add-on, and I thought that was it's just a funny joke,
Yeah, agreed. Fun. And I kind of liked that. I mean, yeah, I guess I can see what they're saying about Callahan now that I've seen all of these Marvel movies, but I do like that. I feel like they gave him more motivation, at least, than just being a greedy businessman.
Right. He was so devastated about the loss of his daughter.
Yeah.
And again, I thought that was a really interesting thing to add into the plot, rather than just making this one-dimensional villain. He's acting out of grief, and really, I just feel like the movie is a really interesting treatise on grief.
Yeah, I agree.
Even though I think you've got to be a little. It takes a level of possibly experience and maturity to maybe see that element. You can easily gloss over it. I guess is more to the point. But Hero is dealing with grief and what it does with his actions. Callahan is dealing with it. And then you see how the friends are trying to help Hero. They're not necessarily. I mean, they're grieving too, because Tadashi was their best friend. But it's still different. But anyway,
that's just part of the grand tradition of Disney.
Yeah,
dealing with things like grief with an emotional truth that it doesn't treat children like they're stupid and just need to be shouted at all the time. Which you watch a lot of, sort of some cartoons and some other things for children. It just feels like, they're just shouting all the time. Whereas Disney's always been a step above that. And so I really appreciate that too. I think that Henry Jackman does a pretty decent job with the score here.
I love the score in this film too. I think he does a really excellent job in highlighting the fun parts and the action parts, the emotional parts.
Yeah.
Really, really great. One of my favorite little Henry Jackman parts is when Hero is figuring out the microbots kind of early on before he goes to science fair, and they have that montage of him in his garage, and it's over a period of multiple days, but they just keep the camera on it and almost like it moves and fast forward, and you see, and there's just this great music that's playing and this really interesting animation and an idea, and I thought they did that in such a clever and masterful way, and just another the many things I like about this film.
Yeah. So it's just it's a sweet, lovely little fun movie that I think that girls will appreciate, boys will appreciate. It's I don't know, it's just a really nice entry into the Disney canon, something we hadn't really seen before, but has that nostalgia sort of the emotional truth of a Disney film.
Feels like a Disney film, but something that's really fresh.
In my ranking of my Disney canon, I have it ranked at number 26. I have it just after Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which I like more than most, at 27, and I have Emperor's New Groove at 25. So that's where I have it.
Outstanding. And of course, I really don't have a solid ranking, but this one is definitely in my I love it category.
Let's figure out what we're going to talk about next. Let me get up my little number generator. Okay, here we go.
Rachel's magic number generator.
So 45. Oh dear. So next month.
This is what I think it is.
Home on the Range.
Well, at least we'll get it over with.
We had to get one of the bad ones eventually.
That one goes in my bottom, I don't like category.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be really fun to talk about. We've talked about a controversial one. We've talked about ones we love. And so this one will be
Oh,
interesting one.
this one, yeah, it'll be interesting.
So there you go. That's what we'll talk about next month for our Talking Disney. So let us know what you think of Bigger Six. And where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Stanford Clark, and I also write a movie blog, which is moviespastandpresent.com.
Yeah. And I'll have the links for all that in the description section. You can just definitely check it out. And make sure you're following me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and on YouTube. I really appreciate it. And you can follow me on social media at Smiling LDS Girl. And like I said, my blog, 54 Disney Reviews. I know I should have them all the same name, but oh well. I don't. But anyway, so thanks so much. And we will talk again next month.
Thanks, Rachel. Bye.
Bye.